What to do about Mohammed Fahmy? I'm Lilley with TheRebel.Media. It's a cause célèbre these days, trying to get Mohammed Fahmy out of an Egyptian jail. There's thousands of Canadians stranded in jails around the world for breaking or allegedly breaking laws in other countries. The government of Canada can't always get them out. We can't always get them back into Canadian custody, even if that means putting them in a Canadian jail. It doesn't always happen. But Fahmy's a journalist, and so journalists have a special interest in his case. They claim that he was just doing his job and that as a Canadian he shouldn't be held for political reasons in Egypt. Now, I'll be honest, it does look like the Egyptian government is holding Fahmy for political reasons. He was working for the Qatar-backed Al Jazeera network when he was arrested back in 2013. Al Jazeera has often supported the Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt was fighting back against the Muslim Brotherhood. This is something that has a lot of political stakes in it. But is it as simple as Justin Trudeau and Tom Mulcair would have you believe? See, on the weekend, Fahmy was sentenced to 3.5 years in jail on his second trial. His first conviction had been overthrown, a new trial ordered. The Canadian government was not expecting him to be convicted. They were not expecting him to go to jail. They thought that their diplomatic efforts had worked. Turns out they didn't, and he's now facing 3.5 years in jail. Justin Trudeau immediately took to Twitter and demanded that the government get him out. And Tom Mulcair made similar statements at a news conference on Sunday.
The Canadian government should be doing something to help Mohammed Fahmy. Prime Minister Harper should pick up the phone and talk to Egyptian President al-Sisi and try to get some answers as to how this is possible.
Is it really that simple? Let's take a look at a couple of facts. Fahmy was actually born in Egypt. That makes him an Egyptian citizen as well. His family moved from Egypt to Kuwait, and then they moved on to Canada. He spent about as much time in Canada as he did while he was growing up in the Middle East. Then he left Canada. He went to work for various American media outlets, and he spent much of his time since then covering the Iraq War, covering the Middle East for CNN, for the LA Times, and then finally for Al Jazeera. How would Canada react? How would Canadians react if we arrested someone in this country who was a Canadian but also a citizen of another country on what we thought or the government thought were real charges? And that country kept showing up and demanding loudly that we just release him because he's their citizen. He's an Egyptian citizen as well. That clouds everything. Even if he's renounced his Egyptian citizen since, he was born in Egypt. They view him as one of theirs. This is the same problem that Canadians from other origins, including one case I can think of someone originally from China who went back and ended up in jail. The countries don't always recognize dual citizenship, or they claim first dibs on that person because he was theirs first. I think that is partly what's going on with Fahmy. Secondly, you can't just loudly proclaim and bang your hand on the desk or bang your shoe, as the Soviets used to do at the UN, and demand that somebody be let go. As Jason Kenney rightfully pointed out on Power and Politics after much berating from their hosts on why the government won't do more, it doesn't always work that way.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you about the Egyptian-Canadian reporter Mohammed Fahmy, convicted to 3 years in Cairo yesterday. What is the Prime Minister going to do? Is he going to reach out to the President and try and appeal for him to be sent home? Because we are now in a situation where Fahmy and his wife don't exactly know how to get out of this situation.
Well, first of all, we're profoundly concerned about the conviction. Our Department of Foreign Affairs, our ambassador and our consular officials in Cairo have been working with great focus on this issue. We have reached out to the Egyptian government at the highest levels and will continue to do so to represent the interests of Mr. Fahmy. In some of these consular cases, the most effective thing is not always to get out with a megaphone. I can tell you that I've worked on a number of sensitive consular cases, helped to bring Canadians back home, and sometimes discretion is appropriate. But I'll be very clear, we are profoundly disturbed about the conviction yesterday.
The world can be a dangerous place, especially the Middle East these last few years, so Canadians going there can't always be sure that they're going to get out. I've spoken to people who've had the job of consular affairs over the years, dating back into the 1990s. They tell me it's extremely difficult, and being quiet diplomacy is far more likely to work, and even that doesn't always work. We can look at Zara Kazemi, the Iranian Canadian killed in an Iranian jail. Chrétien was never able to get her out. He wasn't able to get justice for what happened to her. You can look at William Sampson, again, another case that happened under Chrétien. This is not a partisan issue of one party being good for getting Canadians out of jail and another party not. This is the simple fact that it is a complicated world, and the world can be a dangerous place. Just screaming that Mohammed Fahmy is a Canadian, therefore he should get out of jail, is naive. And anyone that thinks that that's a solid foreign policy is naive as well.